Chapter 8, Justice. The whole village showed up the next day except wolf worshippers and some skeptics. Almost everyone there has lost someone dear to them in the attacks. Axel started training, and what was most unexpected about it was that he allowed everyone to train, no matter men, women, children, orphans, elderly, or widows. All of them were allowed. "Those who think they can fight, come forward," Axel said loudly. Some soldiers and that group who looked like bandits came forward. Then he picked up a green flexible stick from the ground and used it as his weapon. Those who came forward can fight him with their weapon of choice one by one. Simply, the task was to cut the stick. Even though he was injured, no one was able to do it. It was like magic. Everyone tried, but they lasted 1 or 2 moves and fell to the ground. None of them expected that. They looked down on Axel, but his skills were far ahead of them. "We can't win by that pathetic swordsmanship, so swords are out of the question." Then, after a brief silence, he said, "Sword or any other short weapon will be a secondary weapon. We will train with spears. Stabbing will be the move which we will practice the most." Then he ordered all of them to go and dig all around the village. He called the meeting at night, in which he appointed some soldiers to train the villagers. Most of the training contains running and digging, and villagers also have to look after crops in shifts. He told them that these bandits-looking fellows are actually hunters. He gave Alec the responsibility to collect information from all the villagers and hunters and come up with strategies. He has to come up with strategies with minimum losses of their own people, and not to think of those wolves as just animals but intelligent beings. In the White Kingdom, Seals kept teaching Lionheart the way of kings and their mannerisms. During that time, he was made clear that he should be good with nobles. He also taught him how to walk, talk, and to keep everyone happy. He didn't allow him to meet common people, which was a tradition of the White Kingdom. The king used to meet his people and gets to know how everything is going. He tried to make the kingdom a place for everyone to live happily. The White King's father started that tradition, which he kept, and his brother also kept meeting people of the kingdom after his death. That's how the White King met Alec. Seals was against that practice. He thinks that the king should only give his time to important matters which involve the whole kingdom. Lionheart was following what he was being advised. One day, he asked Seals to accompany him on a visit to one of the nobles who happened to be his son. So, they went there. They reached there in half a day. His son Noble D. Crown greeted them with open arms and showed them his land. He assured them that everything is fine in his territory. He arranged a feast for them, and during that feast, a message came that the thing king requested for is ready. No one knew what Lionheart requested. Soon, a royal blacksmith came in with a huge wooden box. "My lord, the challenge you have given me, I am happy to tell you, I have completed it. May I present your new sword?" He then opened the box, and there it is. A long sword, even longer than Seals. It was as long as the Lionheart, that is 7 feet long. It was a double-edged sword made out of pure steel with a streak of gold in the center along the blade. It had some stones on the hilt and blade. The blade was thick and had a width of a hand. But it didn't look sharp. The blacksmith demonstrated its sharpness by putting an apple on the blade, and it cut the apple into halves effortlessly. "I used some magic stones to increase its sharpness," the blacksmith explained. "What do you think of it?" the king asked. "It is long, which could be a hindrance during a fight. I think that our blacksmith did a remarkable job in terms of sharpness, which we all have seen. I can see some magic stones. He used stones to strengthen the sword and to make it lightweight at the same time. They will also keep their sharpness. He did all of that by using only 2 types of elemental stones." Noble answered, and after some thought, he said, "It is a common practice to use gemstones in the king's sword. What he did is something new. He did it to complement the strength of the sword. Well, that is why we send a royal blacksmith to the Leon's kingdom to study magic. However, the sword is too long and it has magic which the Dragon Clan hates." The way he said it was that it was a useless sword, just a showpiece and nothing else. Saying that on the king's face is unusual, but Lionheart laughed it off. It is not just to talk, that you have great knowledge of weapons and magic. He stopped laughing and his tone becomes intense. Now, let's discuss the reason I'm here. You have submitted the request to use magic as a weapon, not just any weapons, but human weapons. Knowing that the Dragon Clan hates magic, it is not unusual. The other kingdoms are doing that. If we don't do the same, we will perish. Noble argued. But you want to make human weapons and... Lionheart was speaking when the noble interrupted and blurted out. It is already happening. You and your little clan live in your own bubble. You couldn't imagine what is going on in the world. Noble intercepted. Silence, you imbecile. Have you started the human experiments? Lionheart asked. It is the first time when Sillies is listening to all that. He was shaken. Imbecile? Who do you think you are? White King never spoke like that to my husband. Do you have any idea who is actually running this country? It's our family. His wife yelled, and at that moment a soldier entered. My lord, we have confirmed that they are doing human experiments. We found 3 dead kids in their basement and a huge pit which we believe is being used to dump the bodies, and there might be hundreds of bodies there. Lionheart's eyes turned red. Filled with anger, he picked up his sword. Do you know the second reason why I came here? It's to test my sword. He started to move towards them. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room changed and everyone fell down on their knees. They were scared. No one has experienced that kind of fear before. It was like they have lost all hope. At that moment, Noble realized that the king in front of him is not like the White King and that he gravely misjudged him. He then takes out a glass vial from his pocket. His son and his wife were looking at him with horror when he said, "There is no other way," and drank it. As soon as he drank it, his stature changed, and his muscles started growing bigger so much that his clothes were torn apart. He started laughing. You have done a grave mistake, now prepare yourself, Noble said. He took the sword and ran towards Lionheart with such speed, he crushed and turned everything into pieces that came his way. He swung his sword and it felt that it passed through him, but when he turned, what he saw was astounding. The sword in his hand broke and there was not even a single scratch on him. Lionheart's red eyes were on Noble and once again fear took over him. What are you? Monster, monster, he shouted. Before anyone could understand what was going on, Lionheart beheaded him and his wife in split seconds. Everyone else present there was unable to move and was on their knees. Lionheart took a deep breath and calmed down. Noble's son also kneeled beside his grandfather. He looks at him and said, "No one is above kingdom. I banish you from this kingdom, and if I ever see you again I will kill you." That boy was expecting his grandfather to say something, but when he didn't respond he ran away from there. Seals felt that the fear is also lifted from him and came back to his senses. He looked around, his son and daughter-in-law were lying on the floor in pieces. He started crying loudly, filled with deep pain. He looked at the king and said something unexpected, "Thank you." He knew that his son had that coming. He realized that his son rebelled against the king, yet he spared his grandson's life. Later, that night Lionheart went to see Seals, but he was not in his room. He was sitting outside on the stairs. He also sat beside him. Late King once told me that it takes 4 generations of kings to ruin a kingdom. The first generation works hard, day and night, to make a prosperous kingdom. They don't want their kids to go through the same challenges they have seen, but also, they provide them with enough luxury, not too much, not too less. While the second generation took over, they do what they see fit for them. They are not that hardworking, but enough to keep what their parents made and provide a little more for their children. That leads to the third generation thinking that it is normal to take what they want. They stop working hard and instead take from others and taught the same to their kids. By the time the fourth generation took over, they were full of corruption and thought of themselves as gods, ruining everything. I am the third generation and you are the second. We have to make sure that our fourth generation can survive. Lionheart knew how difficult that might be for him to talk about his children and admit one's own faults. He also knew that when he thanked him before, he actually thanked him for sparing his grandson's life. Despite the fact that he killed his son, he didn't sense any hate from him. He knew that this man is loyal to the kingdom. You know, if your son has learned half of what you have taught me, he would be alive right now. I am sorry that you have to go through all that. His words filled Seals's heart with sorrow, but he knew that this had to be done because that is what he has been teaching him. You know why I have such long hair? It's because I am not one of them. I am not from the clan. I am the adopted son of the clan's leader. After his son died in a wolf attack, they went to kill that whole pack and rescued me from their den, ironically on the same day. He took me in and raised me as his own. However, they never cut my hair. Loyalty is a burden and a blessing. Even though I am not one of them, but today I am their leader. Lionheart took out his sword and shows it to Seals. This was given to me by my father. Any sword I had used shattered. One day my father took me with him to some ruins and showed me a huge sculpture there. It was a statue of a great warrior, holding a strong iron sword in his hand, who won land after land. People followed him wholeheartedly because he always used his sword for justice. He broke the sculpture, gave me that sword, and advised me to always use it for justice no matter what. This is what I stand for, and I am going to build a nation in which nobles, commoners, and slaves don't matter, but only merit. The way he told him his story, Seals understood why he uses that huge sword and what is his conviction. It's no surprise that he cares for neither titles, manners, nor bloodlines. Seals thought that he now understands why the White King chose him. It's not a bloodline, but because he proved to be worthy. He knew that this kingdom is going to change and only the worthy will remain. After all, that revelation Lionheart made, one thing that has been bugging Seals was, why does Exil have long hair?